Hello and welcome to this edition of Arlington Public News. I'm Paul Werlin.
And I'm Michelle Marino. At Arlington Public News, we bring you stories of interest to Arlington and surrounding communities. In tonight's newscast, we bring you a point of view on the inspiring story of a marathon runner. We preview what's coming up for town meeting this year, and we celebrate the arts and artists at this year's Arlington Cultural Council Awards reception. Plus, we say goodbye to retiring Arlington Police Lieutenant J.J. White. That and more up next. Stay with us. Boston and the world celebrated the 119th running of the Boston Marathon on Monday, April 20th. News intern Sarah Weber was there and brings us this report.
This Patriots Day weekend, thousands of people came together for one of the city's most beloved sporting events, the Boston Marathon. The event has been hosted by the Boston Athletic Association since its inception in 1897, making the race the oldest of its kind. 2015 marked the 119th running of the race. Over 26,000 runners participated in the event this year, including 42 of Arlington's own. The city of Boston has had to overcome immense adversity after tragedy struck the finish line in 2013. However, this year, thousands crowded around the finish line to cheer on the runners. This year's event proved that not even a little rain could stop the crowds from coming out to support the competitors and the city. For Arlington Public News, I'm Sarah Weber.
Among this year's marathon runners, one in particular caught our attention for the awe-inspiring effort it took for him to complete the race. News producer Tyler Trudeau spoke with intern Brian Villani about his point of view on the runner's achievement and what it means to live with a physical challenge.
Brian, thank you for joining me today. As you know, Michael Milamati, a Venezuelan man who has muscular dystrophy, he completed the Boston Marathon at 5 a.m. Tuesday morning after 20 hours of going through the rain, the cold, and the wind. Is this a big inspiration for you coming from someone who has a physical disability?
I say it is because it just proves to the world that just because he has a physical disability doesn't mean that he can't do he can still do everything he wants. No one can tell him he can't do anything. He just proved to everybody that he can finish a Boston Marathon, and it's a good. I would say it's a good inspiration not only to me but to pretty much everybody in the physical disability or any disability category.
You told me about your friend earlier that has muscular dystrophy, and he's actually had a dream to run a marathon. Can you talk about that?
Yeah, my buddy, my best friend from home, his name's Stevie Roller, he always wanted to see if he could run a Boston Marathon. And, you know, he has muscular dystrophy as well, and he just never thought it could be possible. But I'm going to show him this video and show him that this guy has muscular dystrophy. You can still do it. You have no reason not to believe that you can't do anything because of your physical disability. This guy's 39 years old and he's only 15, but he can always get what he wants to get done because nothing can hold him back.
Thank you for joining me today. For Brian Villani, I'm Tyler Trudeau. Thank you for watching Arlington Public News.
Well, Paul, there are some extremely inspirational stories coming out of the marathon this year. I know there were some survivors, too, of the bombing a few years ago that even ran the marathon this year. It's pretty incredible.
Yeah, I know. It's just a testament to the spirit of the marathon that lives on no matter what through all sorts of challenges.
The Boston Marathon bombing trial has moved into the sentencing phase. News intern Jamie Maffio has been in the courthouse and brings us this report.
Tuesday, April 21st, marked the first day of the penalty phase in the Boston Marathon trial. The day began with the government's opening statement, which was delivered by Assistant U.S. Attorney Nadine Pellegrini. As she delivered her speech, behind her on display were 5 enlarged photos, including one of each of the individuals who died at the Tsarnaev brothers' hands. Bombing victims 8-year-old Martin Richard, 29-year-old Crystal Campbell, and 23-year-old Lingzi Liu, as well as MIT police officer Sean Collier, who was shot in his patrol car the night of the shootout in Watertown. The 5th photo on display was the now iconic photograph of Johar Tsarnaev, his white hat visible in the crowd, standing behind the Richards family, where he placed his backpack containing a pressure cooker that would kill 3 and wound more than 260 others. In what could be described as the most shocking moment of the day, Pellegrini ended her speech by telling the jury that during his arraignment in July of 2013, 3 months after the bombing and Tsarnaev's arrest, he was left alone in a holding cell with a video camera. Pellegrini proceeded to tell the jury that left alone, quote, he had one more message to send, after which she lifted the photo of Tsarnaev at the marathon to reveal another photograph of the 21-year-old, staring right into the camera, his mouth partly open as if he were saying something or, as some have speculated, blowing a kiss, and making a profane gesture. Audible gasps filled the courtroom and overflow courtroom. Pellegrini closed by telling the jury that the, quote, just and appropriate sentence for Jahar Tsarnaev is death. For Tsarnaev to receive the death penalty, all 12 jurors will have to vote unanimously in favor of it. If not, Tsarnaev will receive life in prison without the possibility of parole. After Pellegrini's opening statement, the government called a series of witnesses, beginning with victim Celeste Corcoran, who attended the 2013 marathon to watch her sister run the race. Corcoran was there with her husband, her 22-year-old son, and her 22-year-old daughter. She recounted to the jury in heartbreaking detail the horrific day on which she lost both of her legs. The government will continue calling witnesses that have included Andrew Collier, brother of Officer Sean Collier, who was shot the night of the Watertown shootout, MIT Police Chief John DeFava, and members of Crystal Campbell's family. The defense is expected to deliver their opening statements next week. Stay up to date on these and other developments on news.acmi.tv. For Arlington Public News, I'm Jamie Maffio.
Arlington's annual town meeting begins on Monday, April 27th. To get a sense of what we can expect, APN spoke with town meeting moderator John Leone.
The annual Arlington Town Meeting takes place Monday, April 27th. John Leone is the moderator for the town meeting and is looking forward to the event to map out the year of plans for Arlington.
We vote all bylaw changes. We vote all zoning changes. We vote the budgets for all the town departments. Everything comes through us.
The town meeting is more than just budgets and zoning. Many different tasks come up during the town meetings.
Town meeting approved the sale of the old Sims Hospital, that big housing development up in the hill. We approved that. We approved the rebuild of the East Arlington Mass Ave. In the next year or two, we're probably going to be asked to approve a new high school.
The format of the town meeting hasn't changed much in the 200 years of existence. The only difference is how the council votes.
And last year was our first year when we actually used the handsets. Every handset is coded for each town meeting member, so we know, one, if you're present every night, because I take a test vote. We know how you voted on each vote, and we know when you leave.
The town meeting has a shorter process this year. Only 46 warrants are on the agenda for the town meeting. For Arlington Public News, Tyler Trudeau.
For a different perspective on town meeting, we bring you highlights from the Thompson Elementary School's annual third grade mock town meeting, led by school committee chair and town meeting member Bill Hayner.
I would like to begin this by asking you all to stand and face the flag. We're going to do the Pledge of Allegiance.
So we had our town hall, our mock town meeting. So this is the third time that we've done this. Bill and I planned this out a while ago, and Laura McKenney has been doing this with me for all 3 years.
Siobhan had shared with me that it was part of their curriculum and getting involved in this aspect of it. And I liked history. And as the teacher, it's very spontaneous. The more excitement the children present, the more excited that you get, and the easier it is to do all the work.
So first, Mr. Hayner came in and explained the different elements of a warrant article and that we have to really think about different pieces.
They were extremely excited. When we walked in, we had parents set up at tables, so the children all knew their precinct number, and they had to go in and they had to register at their precinct table. And so they were checked off, and then they came in, got settled, sat down, and then Bill started the process off.
I'm going to ask you to raise your right hand, and you're going to repeat after me. Then sat down, and I invited the first person to present their article.
We declare that Arlington should have an animal shelter. We, the children of Arlington, have seen animals that are hurt, neglected, and hungry. We believe there should be a place in Arlington where these animals can be taken care of. We believe Arlington should provide money for staff and supplies and a building with several rooms and a yard for this animal shelter. Thank you.
I asked them for to be seconded. They did. And we went back and forth, those for and those against.
My name is Yvonne Navarro. I'm from Precinct 2, and I think there shouldn't be an animal shelter because my dad was once hurt by a wild wolf, and I suddenly did not like that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Aslam Cleus, and I live on Precinct 1, and I think that we should have animal shelters because dogs need attention and they can need help crossing the streets because they will get run over. Thank you.
When we finished, I asked if there were any new information, and when there wasn't any, we had a voice vote first, which wasn't clear. And we had tellers, just like we have a town meeting, and I explained that, and they counted the vote, and each article passed.
Other years, I felt like we had sat on opposite sides, so it was kind of already decided what side you were on for each argument. But the children really mixed in together, which I thought was great, because you could be sitting next to somebody who had a completely different opinion than you, or was from a different class and came up with a different idea, and that was okay.
The thing that I've noticed with my kids is they have a lot of confidence in themselves with raising different issues and debating points with each other, and that's grown, I think, through this process. In the beginning, they were a little more reticent to share their opinions, some of them, and now they're all doing it because they realize that they can disagree with somebody else in the class and they can do it in a respectful way.
Except for their age, I think every one of them could have qualified as a town meeting member this year.
Several businesses have recently closed their doors or moved to new locations in Arlington. APN wanted to find out the cause. We spoke to some shop owners to hear their concerns in this first segment in the series, which will later explore what town officials say about any underlying issues.
You may have noticed a cluster of empty commercial spaces in Arlington Center. In the first of our series about Arlington businesses, we met several owners to get some insights.
My parents started this business approximately 80 years ago, and the opportunity arose for my father to purchase this building. And then we've been here, for quite a long time, probably in this location, probably for 70 years plus. I have seen, I would say, without counting, probably, over 100 stores at least come and go over the years. And some have gone because of the rents have gone so high. Some of the landlords just like to gouge. And, a small mom and pop business cannot afford thousands of dollars a month with a tiny store. They just charge too much.
Arlington Public News met with Barbara Popolo. She's a 2014 recipient of the Small Business of the Year award attributed by the Arlington Chamber of Commerce. She relocated her business from Arlington Center to East Arlington.
We've been in business since 1999. The shop started in the center, and then we have moved here to East Arlington just this year. But we've been in business 15 years. We provide floral design services, so have a lot of gifts, and almost everything that we have here is inspired by the garden or nature. So what's going on in the center, you've noticed there's a lot of turnover of spaces. So the landlords are, I think, looking to increase rents or find businesses that might be able to pay more rent. So my former landlord increased our rent, and it caused me to need to look to another space. And so I moved into the space that I was in for 4 years, which was a lovely space, and the center, we really liked it a lot. Some changes in our rent and our lease made me look for another space, and it just so happened I talked with Jan at Artbeat, which is a neighboring business, and she mentioned that the space that used to be the Wings place was opening up. So I contacted the landlord, and it all worked out perfectly. It's a great neighborhood for our business, and a matter of fact, when I was moving the business in 2010, I looked towards East Arlington, but there were no storefronts available. One of the things that I mentioned during my talk when I received the award was that I feel very strongly that landlords create the feel of a town. They have a lot of power that way, and they can really help create a very vibrant shopping district, or they can also change it into a very homogeneous one, and you see that in different towns. So I'm hoping that when landlords in Arlington have spaces available, they think about the mix of businesses, not just the amount of rent they can get. Because small businesses like mine, you know, we're very small. Our annual revenues are quite small, but we also feel that we're a very big part of the community. Most of us live in Arlington or very close by. If you're here during a busy time, you'll see people walk in, meet each other, talk to each other. You know, friends often congregate at stores like mine, and so we feel that it's an important part of the community, not just for the shopping.
For Arlington Public News, this is Yawa Digboe.
The Rock for Relay benefit music show in Arlington will be raising money for the American Cancer Society. Our next segment takes a look at the love that inspired this event.
Who would have thought that heavy metal music and cancer research could mix? Danny Bianchi does. He is a 21-year-old cancer survivor.
I was given the option to, start my own thing, start my own event, fundraise money, and what better way was it to involve music?
For Danny, music had a huge impact on his life while battling his rare form of cancer. So 3 years ago, he created Rock for Relay to raise money for cancer research. His mother Diane understands how important music is to her son and loves what he's been able to create.
Where Danny really couldn't play like team sports because of everything he had done, he got a guitar, and we kind of pushed him in that direction, and it took. So it was like a buddy to him.
It's been probably the biggest coping mechanism that I've had. Surprisingly, heavy metal is the music that helped me get through a lot of it.
Heavy metal may be a favorite of Danny's, but at the event this year, rhythm and blues is the theme. He hopes that this Rock the Relay can repeat last year's success.
We were able to raise over $2,500 for the Relay for Life, and we had a lot of raffles. We had a lot of we had T-shirts, we had food. It was just a really fun time.
We actually have some physicians from the Mount Auburn Hospital are going to join us to speak this year. So it's really grown through the years.
The Rock for Relay event takes place April 25th at the American Legion building in Arlington at 7 p.m. For more information, you can visit rockforrelay.com. For Arlington Public News, I'm Tyler Trudeau.
You know, Michelle, it's really good to see that young people are getting involved in this effort because, as we all know, cancer knows no age, knows no boundaries. It affects everyone.
Absolutely. It's very inspirational.
Arlington Public News salutes Lieutenant J.J. White on the occasion of his retirement after 32 years on the job in the Arlington Police Department. He talks to APN about his years of service, including assisting in the manhunt for the Tsarnaev brothers in Watertown.
I'm Nicholas Gaw, here with Lieutenant J.J. White from the Arlington Police Department. Thank you for joining us today.
Nick, thanks for having me here.
No problem. Let's talk about a little bit of your experiences along the way here with the Arlington Police Department.
Sure. I started in April of 1983, 32 years ago, and as a patrolman in my early years, we had to really watch what the older gentlemen did on the job. They took me under their wing, showed me how to get through those first couple of years of uncertainty. I became sergeant. I studied a lot. It took me a couple of times to become sergeant. Then I became a lieutenant, and as a lieutenant, I became a training officer. And from that point there, I was able to help train the newcomer officers coming on the job. A couple other incidents that were part of my career, highlights of my career, wasn't really a highlight, was the incident with the Boston Marathon bombing. That night, when they had the gun battle with the two brothers in Watertown, I was working that night, and we had to we sent officers over there, and that was probably the scariest night of my life because I was sent officers over to basically a killing zone, and I was worried for them and their families because I had to send those poor guys out there. And as we were equipping them in the backyard, we could literally hear the explosions coming from Watertown because it was such a quiet night. We could hear the bombs going off that they were throwing at the police officers. So, we got the officers over there. Our officers went over there. They did well. They came back.
Now, for new young officers coming in, with you being such a seasoned veteran, what would you tell these young guys starting up, their careers as a police officer?
I would say to them, be with your heart, be strong, listen to the older guys on the job. They got the experience. They know how the system works. Then they know to get out there with the community, talk to the people, get to know the people, and that way you're able to, they'll be able to come to you in an easier effort than feeling that they're afraid of you. You don't want that. You want to be able to be as a friend to them so they can actually just come up to you and say, listen, can you help me out with this? And that's what we're here for. We're here to help people to get through their lives and to keep the public safe.
No, absolutely. Now, with you retiring, you got any big plans for the future?
Yeah, I do. I'm going to do a lot of golfing.
Yeah.
Going to take care of my mom. My mom's 83 years old. She's getting elderly, so I'm going to be taking care of her a lot. And just doing stuff around the house and golfing and probably going out to my boat, doing a little fishing.
Awesome. That sounds good to me.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it, trust me.
Yeah, no,
You know?
absolutely.
Yeah. I'm happy to have served the town of Arlington. I grew up in Arlington, so it was really it was a great thing. I got to meet a lot of people, a lot of friends here on the job. I'm probably going to miss the men and women that I work with the most. You know, so they're like family. You know, so you really have a lot of good times with them, and we were able to get through all our shifts. And like our main goal here, every time I tell my officers after I do roll call is stay safe, and I'll see you at the end of the shift. Because our goal here is to get home safely to our family.
So I'm Nicholas Goff for Arlington Public News. Thank you very much, Lieutenant, for being here and spending some time with us today, and thank you so much for your service.
Nick, thank you very much. It's a pleasure. Thank you for having me.
A space scientist credits his education to leading him from the banks of the Nile to helping NASA land on the moon. Dr. Farouk Elbaz worked extensively with NASA on the Apollo missions. News producer Akriti Jagmohan spoke with Dr. Elbaz about his educational journeys, his Egyptian heritage, and his life thus far.
As part of an ongoing conversation about education, the role it plays in our lives and the role it will play in our future, I'm honored to speak with a living legend, Dr. Farouk Elbaz. What role do you think education plays in all of this?
When I was a kid in Egypt, I had a great education. My teachers were well educated and they really knew what to do, and we had great respect for them as individuals and as teachers. And that's so the education system that resulted in me and my cohorts was a very fine education system. Since the revolution, things had kind of come to pieces. During the past 30 years specifically, the government just forgot that educational system. They forgot it all, and all they wanted to see is building a school. We built a school. Never mind that. Let's see who can teach. Let's train them very well, and what the material that reaches these people is in what. If they even sit in a backyard, that's fine with me. If they can be educated in the field, that's fine with me. So if I can educate through the phone that this person already has, that is a much easier, a much better, a much more profitable way to do it. And naturally, e-education is a new thing, and it can be a fabulous thing, because in Egypt there is not enough schools, there are not enough teachers, not enough material, not enough books, you name it. And if we can find the mechanism to convey knowledge or courses or topics to people at all kinds of levels, at all kinds of ages, through a mechanism like an iPhone or a computer, it's a fabulous thing. Or to convey to them, to those who can read, information about what's happening in the world. It's a fabulous thing. They don't have to read what the local government newspaper tells them. They can see other things. For instance, the book of Jules Verne, From the Earth to the Moon, and the illustrations showed that there were 3 men that went into a spacecraft that had a shape very much like the Apollo mission. It went to the moon and so found a lot of rocks. And the 3 people that went to the moon, according to Jules Verne, kind of became dizzy because of the difference in gravity between the Earth and the moon. And all of these things became reality. So he wrote this 200 years ago, but the ideas that he proposed became a reality. So meaning that the human mind can initiate all kinds of thought. And I took these pictures to the Apollo program directors. The Apollo program director said, my God, we all read these books. They must have affected us, affected even the designs subconsciously, meaning just reading that book may have affected the shape of the mission to the moon. edX is a fabulous project, and linking with the Library of Alexandria is a wonderful thing, because the Library of Alexandria is a fantastic place that has very young people like yourself that are running the show, and they're all excited about new things.
From the pyramids of Egypt to the moon and to Mars, Dr. Farouk took us on a trip through history, through his journey, and gave us a glimpse of the future. On behalf of Dr. Farouk and Michael Armanius, for Arlington Public News, I'm Akriti Jagmohan.
The Arlington Cultural Council has been awarding grants to projects that benefit the community since 1982, and this year is no exception. Arlington Public News was at a recent celebration honoring this year's recipients, as well as one of last year's projects that went on to win a state award.
On April 13th, the Arlington Cultural Council honored its 2015 grant recipients at Town Hall.
The Arlington Cultural Council granted $12,500 this year to 19 grant recipients. And here they are.
After town manager Adam Chapdelaine read the list of recipients, the Arlington Cultural Council recognized last year's recipient, Luminarium Dance, for its Gold Star Award from the Massachusetts Cultural Council.
So much. I'm so excited for this. Honestly, Luminarium has worked really hard, obviously, on this specific event, but it's been exciting to see the Arlington community as a whole really come together for this project, and it's just been amazing to see the lasting effects of this project over the last couple of months. I mean, we did it back in September, and we've had people reaching out to us for the last however many months it is until now. So for the MCC to come forward and give us this award, it means a lot to us. It's a nice recognition also not only of us, but of the Arlington Cultural Council and the types of projects they put forward.
Projects funded this year included fine arts, music, theater, dance, and video that benefited the community.
Of the many great recipients of a Cultural Council grant that were being celebrated tonight, 2 of them had their events at the Regent Theater. One was Belmont World Film.
This multi-day film festival for children under 10 was held at the Regent Theater in January. The film festival featured extraordinary films from around the world, many with English subtitles.
We're very grateful. It's our first time being funded by the Arlington Cultural Council, and I think it was money well spent. It allowed us to have our films, many of which were subtitled, simultaneously translated into English for young viewers or children who had problems with reading. So it made it more of an even playing ground for everybody to enjoy the films. And I met some new interesting people and met some of my audience members here, big fans, which was very gratifying.
It's kind of thrilling actually to see how much is going on in Arlington culturally. It's just, it's been growing in that way for so long, and the town is filled with talented musicians and artists.
Next, the Creek River String Band.
The event concluded with a special performance by grant recipient Creek River String Band. So congratulations to the Arlington Cultural Council's 2015 grant recipients.
Julia Bloom is back. This week she looks for birds and visits the Arlington Conservation Land.
One of my favorite places in Arlington is the Conservation Land in the Heights. I love the wooded paths as well as the playground and the walking maze made by local residents. But my favorite place in the park is the vernal pool. This small area features a body of water that melts from snow in the winter and dries up in the summer. It is home to many bugs and birds that form a quiet, peaceful ecosystem, and it is a great spot for nature watching. I enjoy relaxing on the nearby rocks and enjoying the sunshine. The birds have returned in force, especially the robins, which are everywhere I turn. There is a cardinal pair making a nest in my own backyard. Although I don't know where the nest is, it is exciting to know that soon I will see baby cardinals flying around. I have also seen finches and chickadees. I can hear many others, and their songs make my heart sing. For Arlington Public News, this is Julia Bloom.
You know, speaking of birds, I wonder if those turkeys that we saw in our last newscast made it to the bird conservation area.
I wonder too. I guess we'll have to wait to find out.
Maybe they're still eating their sandwiches. Arlington Public News is a production of Arlington Community Media and functions as a gateway for local participation in issues and events of interest to the community.
Check out our latest segments on the web at news.acmi.tv and like us on Facebook. Join us next time for another edition of Arlington Public News. I'm Michelle Marino.
And I'm Paul Werlin. See you next time.